Welcome to Heartline Stories. Tonight, at a grand wedding filled with glittering lights and whispers, a billionaire makes an unexpected choice, hiring a struggling woman to pose as his wife. But things take an unsettling turn when a mysterious rival crashes the party with secrets sharp enough to shake the glittering world they've built. Alliances will be tested, and masks may crack under pressure. Stay tuned to witness moments that will leave you holding your breath. Let us know where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe to keep the stories flowing. Once upon a time, in a big city with tall buildings that touched the clouds, there lived a man named Jason Carter. Jason was one of the richest people in the world. He had shiny cars, a mansion with so many rooms he couldn't count, and even a helicopter. But there was something Jason didn't have anymore: his wife, Olivia. She had left him because he only cared about work and money. He didn't know how to show love. One sunny morning, Jason got an invitation. It was for Olivia's wedding. She was marrying someone else. Jason felt a strange twist in his stomach. He didn't want to go to the wedding alone. He wanted to show Olivia and everyone else that he had moved on too. Jason thought and thought. Then he came up with a crazy idea. He decided to hire someone to pretend to be his wife for the wedding. Not just anyone, though. He wanted to hire someone nobody would expect. The next day, Jason walked into a small cafe on the edge of town. It wasn't the kind of place a billionaire would normally go. Behind the counter was a young woman named Hannah. Hannah had big dreams, but life hadn't been kind to her. She worked day and night to take care of her little brother, Max. Her clothes were simple and her shoes had holes, but her heart was full of hope. Jason saw something special in Hannah. She wasn't like the fancy people he usually met. She was real. "I have a job for you," Jason said, sliding into a seat at the counter. Hannah raised an eyebrow. "A job? Here? At the cafe?" "No," Jason replied. "I want you to pretend to be my wife." Hannah blinked. "Your wife? Are you joking?" Jason shook his head. "It's for one day. You come with me to my ex-wife's wedding, pretend to be my wife, and I'll pay you enough money to change your life." Hannah thought about Max and their tiny apartment that leaked when it rained. She thought about how tired she was from working all the time. This could be her chance to make things better. "All right," Hannah said finally. "I'll do it, but just this once." Jason smiled. "Deal." Jason wasted no time. He arranged for a car to pick up Hannah the next day. When the car arrived, Hannah stepped out wearing a dress more beautiful than anything she'd ever owned. It shimmered in the sunlight, and for the first time, she felt like she belonged in Jason's world. Jason couldn't help but stare. "You clean up nicely," he said, trying to sound casual. Hannah smirked. "You're not too bad yourself, Mr. Billionaire." The ride to the wedding was quiet but full of tension. Hannah fiddled with her bracelet while Jason checked his watch over and over. They had rehearsed their story, how they met, how long they'd been married, and all the little details to make it convincing. Hannah still felt nervous. She wasn't used to pretending, especially in front of so many rich and important people. When they arrived at the grand venue, Jason held out his arm. "Ready?" Hannah nodded, even though her hands were shaking. "Let's get this over with." The wedding was like something out of a fairy tale. White flowers hung from every corner. A band played soft music, and the guests were dressed in clothes that probably cost more than Hannah's entire apartment. Jason walked confidently into the room, with Hannah on his arm. As soon as they entered, all eyes turned to them. People whispered, and some even gasped. Jason had been out of the public eye for a long time, And now he was back, with someone no one expected. Then came the moment they had both been waiting for. Olivia, Jason's ex-wife, stood at the end of the aisle in her sparkling wedding gown. She looked happy until she saw Jason. Her eyes went wide when she noticed Hannah. Jason could see a flicker of surprise, maybe even jealousy in Olivia's expression. "Jason," Olivia said as he approached. Her voice was cool, but her eyes betrayed her curiosity. "And who is this?" "This is my wife, Hannah," Jason said smoothly, his arm tightening around Hannah's. "We've been happily married for a year now." Hannah forced a smile and extended her hand. "Nice to meet you." Olivia hesitated before shaking Hannah's hand. "Nice to meet you too," she said, though her tone was far from kind. The introductions were awkward, but Jason didn't care. He had made his point. He wasn't alone. But as the evening went on, Jason started to notice something he hadn't planned for. Hannah wasn't just blending in, she was shining. Guests were drawn to her warmth and honesty. They asked her questions, laughed at her jokes, and genuinely seemed to enjoy her company. Jason found himself watching her more than anyone else. She wasn't pretending to fit in. She was just being herself. And somehow, that was enough. But then, just as the night seemed to be going well, a man approached them. He was tall, with sharp eyes and a sly smile. "Jason," the man said, "always full of surprises, aren't you?" Jason frowned. "Victor, what do you want?" Victor's gaze shifted to Hannah. "Just wanted to meet the woman who's tamed the untamable Jason Carter." Hannah's smile faltered. She could sense something off about Victor, but she didn't know what. "Well," Victor continued, his tone dripping with amusement, "enjoy the evening. I'm sure there are plenty of surprises yet to come." With that, Victor walked away, leaving Jason and Hannah standing there, confused and uneasy. "What was that about?" Hannah whispered. Jason shook his head. "Nothing good, I can tell you that." Little did they know, Victor's words were just the beginning of the twists waiting to unfold that night. Hannah felt a shiver run down her spine as she watched Victor disappear into the crowd. She turned to Jason, her voice quiet but firm. "I don't trust him. Who is he, really?" Jason sighed, running a hand through his perfectly combed hair. "Victor is complicated. He's an old business rival who never plays fair. If he's here, it means trouble." Hannah didn't like the sound of that. She might not belong to Jason's world of wealth and power, but she knew how to trust her instincts. "You think he's planning something?" "I don't know," Jason admitted, "but we need to be careful." Before Hannah could ask more, Olivia approached them. She was holding a glass of champagne, her lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Enjoying the party?" she asked sweetly, though her gaze was locked on Hannah. "Yes," Hannah replied, trying to sound confident. "It's lovely." Olivia chuckled, a sound that made Hannah's skin prickle. "You know, Jason," she said, turning to her ex-husband, "I never imagined you'd settle down so quickly, and with someone so unexpected." Jason's jaw tightened. "Hannah and I are very happy together." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Are you? Or is this just another one of your games?" Hannah felt her cheeks flush, but before she could respond, a loud clink echoed through the room. Everyone turned to see Victor standing at the front, tapping his glass with a spoon. He had a microphone in his other hand and a mischievous grin on his face. "Ladies and gentlemen," Victor announced, his voice booming, "I'd like to propose a toast." Jason stiffened, and Hannah could feel the tension radiating from him. "What is he doing?" Jason muttered under his breath. Victor's eyes gleamed as he looked around the room. To new beginnings and unexpected surprises, he said, raising his glass. His gaze lingered on Jason and Hannah for just a moment too long. May tonight be a night to remember. The room erupted in applause, but Jason and Hannah exchanged uneasy glances. It was clear that Victor's words carried a hidden meaning, one that they were yet to uncover. As the night went on, Victor's presence loomed over them like a dark cloud. He seemed to be everywhere, watching, waiting. Hannah couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. But what kind of trap, she didn't know. And then, just as the clock struck 10, a waiter approached Jason with a small sealed envelope. "For you, sir," the waiter said, handing it over. Jason opened the envelope, his brows furrowing as he read the message inside. His expression darkened, and without saying a word, he handed the note to Hannah. She read the words slowly, her heart pounding louder with each one. "Meet me in the garden. Alone. Victor." Jason folded the note carefully, his face betraying no emotion, but Hannah could see the tension in his shoulders. "I can't let him bait me," he muttered, slipping the note into his pocket. But then he sighed. "If I don't show up, who knows what he'll do next?" Hannah's instincts kicked in. "You can't go alone. What if he's planning something worse than just words?" Jason shook his head. "I have to handle this myself. It's complicated." "Well, I'm coming with you," Hannah said firmly, planting her hands on her hips. She wasn't about to let him face Victor's schemes alone, even if all this was supposed to be just an act. Jason hesitated but finally nodded. "Fine, but stay close to me and don't say a word unless I tell you to." The two of them quietly slipped out of the grand ballroom and made their way to the garden. The air outside was crisp, with a faint scent of roses hanging in the breeze. Strings of fairy lights twinkled above, casting a soft glow over the winding paths and elegant fountains. It would have been beautiful if the tension wasn't so thick. They reached a small gazebo at the center of the garden. Victor was there, leaning casually against one of the wooden columns. He smiled as they approached, his teeth gleaming like a predator who had just cornered his prey. "Jason," Victor said smoothly, tipping an imaginary hat, "and you brought your lovely wife. How charming." Jason's jaw tightened. "What do you want, Victor?" Victor chuckled, his eyes gleaming with amusement. "Straight to the point, as always. You haven't changed a bit." Jason crossed his arms. "Get to the point." Victor's smile faded and his tone turned sharp. "I know your little secret, Jason. This wife of yours, she's not who you say she is." Hannah felt her heart skip a beat. She glanced at Jason, who didn't flinch. "You don't know anything," Jason said coldly. Victor stepped closer, his smirk returning. "Oh, but I do. And I wonder, what would Olivia and her new husband think if they found out? What would all these high society guests think if they learned the truth?" "You'd ruin a wedding just to spite me?" Jason asked, his voice low but steady. Victor shrugged. "Call it entertainment, but I'm willing to keep quiet if you give me what I want." Jason's eyes narrowed. "What is it?" Victor leaned in, his voice barely above a whisper. "That prime piece of land in the downtown district, the one you outbid me for last year. Transfer it to me, and your little secret stays safe." Hannah clenched her fists. She couldn't believe the nerve of this man. But before she could speak, Jason cut her off with a warning glance. "I'll think about it," Jason said finally. Victor smirked. "You have until the end of the night." He glanced at Hannah one last time. "Enjoy the party." With that, he disappeared into the shadows, leaving them alone in the garden. As soon as he was out of sight, Hannah turned to Jason. "You're not seriously considering giving him what he wants, are you?" Jason looked down at her, his expression unreadable. "I don't know yet, but one thing's for sure. Victor won't stop until he gets what he wants." Hannah crossed her arms. "Well, he doesn't scare me. If he wants to play games, then let's beat him at his own." Jason's lips curled into a small smile. "You're braver than most people I know, Hannah." But deep down, neither of them could shake the feeling that Victor had more tricks up his sleeve. The clock was ticking, and the night was far from over. Jason and Hannah made their way back to the ballroom, their thoughts weighed down by Victor's ultimatum. The lively chatter and laughter of the wedding guests felt like it belonged to another world, one that had no idea of the drama unfolding beneath the surface. Jason leaned close to Hannah as they walked. "We need to act normal," he whispered. "Victor's probably watching us." Hannah nodded, though her mind was racing. How could they possibly outsmart someone like Victor? She wasn't a billionaire or a business genius, but she had her wits, and she wasn't about to let someone like Victor win. As they approached the main hall, a familiar voice called out to them, "Jason! Hannah!" It was Olivia, now accompanied by her new husband, a tall and kind-looking man named Michael. "There you are," Olivia said, her tone sharp but polite. "We were wondering where you disappeared to." "Just getting some air," Jason said smoothly. "It's quite a crowd in here." Michael smiled warmly at Hannah. "So you're the woman who finally managed to tie Jason down. That's quite an achievement." Hannah chuckled nervously. "Well, Jason's full of surprises." Olivia studied Hannah closely, her eyes narrowing. "Indeed he is." There was something about Olivia's tone that made Hannah's skin crawl. Just then, a waiter appeared with a tray of drinks. Hannah reached for a glass, but as she did, her hand brushed against a folded piece of paper tucked under the tray. She froze, her eyes darting to Jason. He noticed the paper too, but neither of them reacted outwardly. "Excuse us for a moment," Jason said suddenly, guiding Hannah away from the group. Once they were out of earshot, he grabbed the note and opened it. The message was short but chilling. "You're running out of time. Choose wisely." Jason crumpled the note in his hand, his jaw tightening. "He's toying with us." Hannah frowned. "What are you going to do?" Jason looked down at her, his eyes filled with determination. "We're not going to let him win, but we need a plan." Hannah's mind was already racing. "If he wants that land so badly, it must be for something important. What if we figure out why?" Jason hesitated, then nodded. "You might be right. If we can expose what he's really up to, we could turn this around." "But how?" Hannah asked. "We don't have much time." Jason thought for a moment. "There's someone at this wedding who might help us. Someone who knows how Victor operates." Hannah raised an eyebrow. "And who would that be?" Jason gave her a small, almost mischievous smile. "Olivia." Jason's suggestion hung in the air, leaving Hannah more than a little surprised. Olivia? The very woman whose wedding they were attending? Surely she wouldn't help them. Or would she? "She doesn't exactly seem like someone who'd be on your side," Hannah said, folding her arms. Jason smirked, his confidence unshaken. "Olivia knows Victor. Better than most. He was her business partner before things turned sour." Hannah's eyes widened. "Wait, her partner? Why didn't you say this before?" Jason shrugged, his tone calm but deliberate. "Because it's ancient history. But if anyone knows Victor's weaknesses, it's her. She has as much reason to distrust him as I do. If we can convince her to help us, we'll have a chance. Hannah hesitated. Olivia didn't strike her as the type to forgive or forget, but time was running out and they didn't have many options. All right, she said, nodding. Let's do this. They made their way back into the ballroom, the clinking of glasses and hum of laughter creating an almost surreal contrast to their growing urgency. Spotting Olivia chatting with a small group of guests near the cake table, Jason motioned for Hannah to follow him. Olivia, Jason said smoothly as they approached, interrupting her conversation. Can we have a word? Olivia turned, her expression unreadable. Jason, Hannah, what is it now? It's about Victor, Jason said, keeping his voice low. We need to talk. Privately. Olivia's eyes flickered with curiosity, but she kept her composure. Victor? Why would I care about him? Because he's up to something, Jason replied. And I think it's something you wouldn't want to happen either. Olivia raised an eyebrow, but after a moment of hesitation, she sighed. Fine, let's step outside. The three of them slipped away from the crowd, finding a quiet corner of the garden where they wouldn't be overheard. Olivia crossed her arms and stared at Jason expectantly. All right, spill, what's this about? Jason glanced at Hannah before speaking. Victor is trying to blackmail me into giving him the downtown property. He claims he'll reveal my arrangement with Hannah if I don't. Olivia's lips curled into a faint smirk. Your arrangement, huh? I can't say I'm surprised. Olivia, Jason said, his tone sharp, this isn't about us. This is about Victor. You know as well as I do that he doesn't play fair. If he's after that property, it means he's up to something bigger. What do you know? Olivia studied him for a long moment, her expression softening just enough to show she was considering his words. Finally, she spoke. Victor's been trying to get his hands on that property for months. Rumor has it he's planning some kind of massive development there, something that would give him control over half the city's economy. Hannah's jaw dropped. Half the city? That sounds huge. It is, Olivia said, but he's not exactly known for following the rules. If he's desperate enough to blackmail you, it means he's running out of options. Jason nodded. So, you'll help us? Olivia hesitated, then sighed. I'll think about it, but don't expect me to stick my neck out too far. This is your mess, Jason, not mine. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Jason and Hannah alone in the moonlit garden. Well, Hannah said, breaking the silence, that went okay, I guess. Jason chuckled softly. Better than I expected. But as they stood there, the unease in Jason's stomach refused to go away. He couldn't shake the feeling that Victor was always one step ahead, and the night was far from over. Jason and Hannah returned to the ballroom, their faces calm but their minds racing. Olivia's hint about Victor's plans gave them a new sense of urgency. If they were going to stop him, they needed more than just vague rumors. They needed proof. As the night wore on, Jason slipped away to make a few quiet phone calls. Meanwhile, Hannah mingled with the guests, hoping to pick up anything useful. She was surprised at how comfortable she felt among these wealthy strangers, even though just a day ago she'd been working shifts at a tiny cafe. Eventually, Jason returned to her side, his expression unreadable. We have what we need, he said, his voice low. Victor's deal is illegal, and I have the documents to prove it. All we have to do is expose him. How? Hannah asked, her heart pounding. Jason smiled faintly. By giving him a taste of his own medicine. The two of them worked quickly, calling in favors and using every resource Jason had at his disposal. By the time Victor realized what was happening, it was too late. The truth about his shady dealings was out, and his carefully laid plans crumbled before his eyes. As the guests whispered and stared, Victor stormed out of the ballroom, his face red with anger. Jason watched him go, his expression calm but victorious. Hannah turned to him, a smile tugging at her lips. So, does this mean I'm officially off duty? Jason chuckled softly. Not just yet. There's still one more thing I need you to do. And what's that? Hannah asked, raising an eyebrow. Jason held out his hand. Dance with me? Hannah hesitated for only a moment before taking his hand. As they moved to the music, she couldn't help but wonder how her life had changed so much in just one night. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of an adventure far bigger than she ever imagined.